and welcome to another video. In today's video, you should probably just turn the video off right now because this is a messed up story it's a messed up story. What am I going to do? This is my autobiography. I pretty much have to, it's important. So, this is a story about, kind of like my mom's second husband and her dad, basically. So, but there's a lot to it. So, my mom, dad, and stepdad worked at this restaurant together, I believe in like high school, although my dad was older. I don't know if my mom's second husband was, I can't remember his age, right? But I remember my dad being older than my mom, but they all worked at this Farrell's restaurant, right? Which was like this altar to sugar, basically. Like you walk in and it was like you're in line to get in the place, and it was just these giant suckers, the giant colorful ones right on both sides, candy all the way to the ceiling. You get up there, everybody that worked there was dressed in like the top hat and the bow tie and the little vest, right? And so it was a big birthday place. I remember being there when I was a kid for my birthday. And what would happen is the employees, when it was your birthday, they would all sing and dance and bring a big tub of ice cream or cake out on this thing. And the music's playing and they're all singing along. So I can imagine back in the 60s that it was probably a pretty fun place. It was probably a pretty fun place to work right up until it went out of business, right? So my dad was so far up in there, apparently he was opening new Farrell's, and that's how I was born in Ohio and not in Oregon. So everybody is born in Oregon in my family except me. And I was just in Ohio for a few months, apparently. I don't know anything about Ohio, right? But that's what my parents were there opening a Farrell's restaurant. I was born back in Oregon. So my mother grew up very religious. Neither one of my parents should have had children by any stretch of the imagination. My dad, he was the product of a birth out of wedlock, whatever. His dad just got his mom pregnant. He never knew his dad. So his dad, I could tell it was kind of I can imagine it's a messed up thing, but he used to think he could figure out who he was. And the name that he had come up with was Kianos. Okay, so it was a Greek name. Now, my grandmother, my dad's mother, then married this guy that I actually have this guy's last name. And this guy, as far as I can determine, was a really bad person. Apparently he kept my dad in a tent outside the trailer and just beatings all around all the time. And he had two daughters with my dad's mom. So those were my aunts, both dead. So this guy that I have his last name, horrible genetics, horrible person. He died super young. His daughters died super young. Addiction, bad. One of my aunts, meth. Super freaking, meth addict, right? Hardcore. Never had kids. I don't think she ever had kids. She might have had kids. I hope she didn't have kids. But then the other aunt, and she was hooked up with this dude that was he was kind of an interesting character. Like their house got burned down or was burned down or something, and he owned like a hawk shop. And so, like, I mean, if you want to have a vision of what he was like Burt Reynolds in that Smokey and the Bandit. He was that kind of guy, right? So he's like I remember playing out at their property, and he had like all this medical equipment just out. Like he'd buy big loads of stuff, right? And there might have been some drugs, something going on there. I mean, big turquoise watches and rings and all this stuff, you know. He looked like a, wealthy, cowboy kind of guy or whatever, right? So anyway, they had a kid. Did they have a kid? Or maybe that aunt had a kid from another guy. So that was my cousin. I heard she had a kid, but I haven't seen her. 35 years or something. I don't even know. So, and I'm just kind of painting a picture, trying to kind of, give an overall picture of what the family situation, because I just made a statement that neither one of my parents should have a child, so I'm kind of qualifying that statement. And I feel like if you're raised being beaten up all the time and in a trailer park outside in a tent, then maybe you shouldn't have children, right? Have a nice life as best as you can with that kind of traumatic experience in childhood. But it seems like traumatic childhoods were like every childhood and like 98% of childhoods, and then as we progress as a species, childhoods become less and less traumatic. But just a side note, this area I grew up had a lot of Vietnam vets, and so kids being beaten was like coming to school. Like I came to school with like a handprint on my face one time. I remember kids coming to school with their fingers broken, their wrists broken, their arms broken, bruises, being beat by your parents in the 70s and the 80s, and at least the neighborhood I was just like, oh, your parents don't beat you? Like that would be weird. Like I had these friends, Scott and Kevin, and I think their dad was like just like a very, very little teeny tiny black, but you couldn't even tell. But he was just a little black. Not that that matters, but he never let his kids out of the house and just beat them incessantly. And I mean, it was just like, that was just the friggin' way it was. I mean, so anyway, and then my mother, so she, and this, is super messed up fucking shit, but she actually was, I'm pretty sure, molested by my grandfather. And what makes me say that is, this is kind of the crux of the story, right? So, my cousins started living with my grandfather after my grandmother was dead and reported my grandfather trying to get into the bathroom with them while they were bathing, okay? So, they reported this to me. And at the time, it was just like, it's a lot to process, right? So and that was like probably the last time I ever saw my grandfather or that side of the entire family, which is kind of my response to effed up stuff, is just like, I'm out. So there's that, and then there's the fact that my mother played with dolls as an adult, right? And that apparently is a sign, okay? But that's really not what really kind of like put it all together. So now we have to go back to, I was about 5, my little brother's about 1 when my parents got divorced. And my parents got divorced because my dad's a fucking psycho. Like, bad, as you would expect someone to be who was raised in a tent outside of, but religion, right? So my dad apparently tricked my mother or got her drunk or whatever he did to then bang her, but then because she was religious, that if she didn't marry him, she was going to hell. Why I hate religion. One of the reasons why I hate religion. Just the total idiocy of it all. But anyway, so they hook up in the middle 60s, I am assuming. Okay, and, I think my dad just, doesn't have the tools to put life together. Being raised in a tent outside of a trailer doesn't really give you the tools in life to just, do whatever, right? So he just liked to fish. That was his thing, fishing, right? Which is, that's good, you have a thing. And so he would, try to do all this. And I'm guessing that the last failure was they tried to open a fish market. So they rented like an old gas station, and they were selling fish out of the gas station. And before that, like, my mom would be in the back of a pickup truck on a corner with a crab cooker and cases of crab. They're selling crab right on the street corner, right? Which my dad was fishing for or buying. I don't know what the whole, like how the acquisition was taking place. But so they were in this whole fishing business, and I think that crumbled, and the stress of it all just kind of, made my dad a fucking psycho, right? So now they're divorced, and there was a shooting. There was a shooting, and the ages and all this are just tough to nail down. I want to say I was 8, but then it's like, where was that 3 years between when they got divorced? I don't think there was 3 years of, but anyway, I think I was 8, but then I'm not sure what was happening because they got divorced when I was 5, so then 6, 7, 8, yeah, first grade, anyway. I might even been younger, and for some reason I'm remembering this number as 8. I don't know. So anyway, my grandfather shot my dad in a custody battle, or not a custody battle, just in a fight while they were custody transfer. So my dad was dropping me and my little brother off at my grandparents' house, and a full-blown fight ensued, like tug of war, like my grandma pulling on this arm, my dad pulling on this arm, everybody screaming and yelling. Grandpa pulls out a gun, and then so my dad sees a gun being pulled out, and he has this okay, somebody pulls a gun on me and I don't have a gun, I'm just gonna go away. Unless I'm close enough to them when they pull it out and I can get it away from them, I might do that, but that wasn't the situation. He was fucking with it. My dad was fucking with my grandfather after he pulled the gun out. So he pulled the gun out, he put it away, and then my dad I think he actually pushed my grandfather, which is that point, he pulled the gun out and fucking unloaded it and hit my dad, I don't know, 3 times, 2 times, 4 times, something. So, and I'm the only witness. It's my dad, my grandpa, and me. So, at that point, now I'm living with my mom, and there's her second husband, this Frank Harlow guy. Here's where this is kind of just my guess, because it was kind of like this, that my dad took me on a weekend and showed me a really good time trying to trick me into living with him, and that was my dad. When in reality what it was both my mom and dad trying to, get me to go live with my dad, because her new boyfriend, this Frank Harlow guy, didn't want anything to do with me, right? And so what it took years to figure out was why. Like, what the fuck did I do, right? And there was the whole shooting thing. So I just, assumed that because, like, look, my life, because of that shooting, my childhood, I got psychologist time, right? Which I wasn't identified as super smart until at 16, right? And like 5 seconds later, that's when the stepdad left. Now I'm skipping over stuff, but basically, they tricked me into living with my dad. So I went to live with my dad, right? And then, so when I was living with my dad, there was no psychologist or anything like that I can remember, right? It was just, I was living with my dad. He hooked up with this super stupid woman, Dina from Texas. That's why I've really never liked people from Texas my whole life since then, is because like she was just such a horrible person, just so dumb, and would just mess with me just to mess with me, right? And it's like, just why? Like for instance, I'm doing my homework one day, and she doesn't want me to do my homework right there. She wants me to do my homework over there. Well, I'm already doing my homework, and I'm just like, basically, fuck you or something like that. Not really, but, and I'm trying to hurry up and get it done because my mom's on her way to pick me up for my grandfather's birthday party. And Dina is fucking with me, right? And turns it into a whole fucking thing. And then my mom wouldn't even take me to the birthday party, right? Like that's one of the most pissed off memories I have, is doing my homework like I'm supposed to, trying to get it done, being fucked with by a moron bitch from Texas that's just a stupid fucking person, right? Just dumb. And for no reason, just being all like, go do your home. I don't remember it was either like I was doing it on the kitchen table, right? Or she wanted me to go to my desk, which, little tiny desk, I'm like kitchen table. I got like the whole thing, I'm doing homework. So it turns into a whole fight where I'm throwing rocks at her and shit right when my mom shows up. And and then my mom just left me there. And I'm like trying to get her to take me with her by holding on to the hood of the car, right? So this huge nightmare. This is kind of BS childhood I had. Okay, and it's like, okay, so why did this guy, Frank, what did I do other than witnessing a shooting, which that's it, but okay, so he's like a guy that went to college and became a teacher, like speech teacher, right? And so, like I say, he left like about 5 seconds after I was discovered to be, I got my IQ test, right? He was gone 5 seconds later, okay? So, and what I think was like, my mom was like, I think he's smart. And then Frank being like college educated, right? So, and probably his IQ is probably average or a little above average, right? But my mom's IQ is probably below average, and then religion. So he seemed like a fucking brilliant person to her. So he's like, oh, well, if he's so smart, then we need to put him in this private school over here this really smart. So this girl that was like actual genius and had actual parental interaction in her education. Like her parents were super active in her education. Like I don't have any memories. I got one memory of my dad doing flashcard spelling shit with me, but it was like, do your homework, right? It wasn't, let's do your homework, right? So this girl that had an IQ, like literal genius, right? Born genius, parents super doing stuff to help that out. She ends up going through this school, this Mill Creek Little School, right? Which was a retarded school. But it got like accredited because of this one genius girl that was already a genius that went through that school and ended up in college at like 13 or 14 or some shit like that. Oh, she went to this Milk Creek Little School. Oh, it must be amazing. Oh, it must be amazing. No! It was a bunch of fucking retard hippies that didn't know shit about science, math. Like literally, there was no math. There was no science. The fucking classes were like, fucking sit down in a fucking circle and read a book. Just pick a book and read a book in a circle. That's a fucking class. Or fucking, and I did a whole entire video about this. Hopefully I'll be able to link it. But it was just ridiculous. And I like literally got held back because this school taught me nothing. My school days look like this in second grade, right? Get up at 4:30 in the morning. Make your own breakfast. Make your own lunch. This is what the school told the parents, right? Then put the fucking kids on public transit to ride out to the middle of nowhere and then get dropped off, and then a shuttle car will take the kids back in. Okay, well, number one, my circadian rhythms are not morning person at all. So that school was just fucking with me hard on a super deep level from day one of going there, okay? And then it wasn't teaching me anything, right? And then I would do things like fall asleep on the bus and end up in downtown Portland, or forget a book and get banned from riding the car, the shuttle car. So now my days, I get up at 4:30 in the morning, make lunch out of nothing in the refrigerator. And I would have to say, and I'll just put this out there now, that overall, I feel like a good definition of my childhood was neglected. So I spent a lot of time alone, and then below that would be abused, okay? So I was neglected, abused, and then, and that's just kind of the view I have of my childhood. Like, it really takes effort to find good memories in my childhood, right? But I can remember freaking trying to make lunch out of a refrigerator that's empty. Going to school with Halloween candy. Getting in trouble for having Halloween candy. And then forgetting because I'm not eating, sleeping right, Oh yeah, you're gonna learn? What are you gonna learn in a fucking school? It's not teaching anything, right? So this is second grade, right? And this is all really crucial time for a super high intellect people to be learning, right? And our school system actually takes the most intelligent people and gives them a brain disease called ADHD, whatever, okay? And that's basically a stagnating brain. It's a brain that's not being fed information fast enough, okay? Because in these big classrooms full of 30, 40 kids, the teachers are teaching the stupidest kid in the class. The smartest kid in the class, they got it the first time it was said, and boom, the kid's off. And now what? The teacher's saying it over and over and over again for the dumb kid. And the smart kid, now he's thinking about flying into space or, building rocket ships or whatever. Okay, this is how ADHD, whatever those brain diseases are called, are created, okay? So this whole putting me in this school, this was Frank's idea because this was his response to and I don't think he was smart enough to determine that I was smart. He hadn't spent enough time around me. My mother had, obviously. So she was determined. And then he was probably no, that's it. And that's probably why when I got the fucking test at 16 or whatever, he was gone, right? So my parents basically, got me to live with my dad. I went and lived with my dad. And my dad basically just got a settlement from my grandpa shooting him. And then just didn't really do much with the money other than just kind of, right? Until he literally lost the house he bought. I mean, he went to Alaska one summer asked my mom if I could stay with them for a summer. And then he went to Alaska and basically never came back. Now, right then and there, what I, in hindsight, wish would have happened, I wish that my mother would have just said, Frank is adamant about not being around me, so no, he can't come live with us, right? And that would have been best for the overall situation, because that guy in his head, I was some kind of fucking monster. And he was gonna fucking prove that one way or the other, okay? So, and the way he went about it is so fucked up. And like weird shit sticks in my head, like, and I think it sticks in my head, like, to be evaluated as an adult. Like, why do I have this weird memory, right? That's stuck in my head. And then when I evaluate that memory as an adult, it's like, oh, whoa, what? WTF? On like a huge scale. So, this guy arranges for, now talk about people who shouldn't have had kids, was his manager of the restaurants that he owned, like the general manager dude, this guy Dave, right? This guy shouldn't have had kids. He hooked up with this kind of pretty girl, had kids, and then straight up fucking like took all the payroll and went to Vegas one day, ripped off Frank and his partner in these restaurants, like this dude that was like, and you know, I think I literally always called him a retard as a kid. Like I picked on this adult because I don't know, I guess I was a mean kid, but he was an actual retard that actually ripped off, you know, like 50 grand he took, right? So Frank got this guy's wife, girlfriend, whatever, baby mama, to bring over her kids. Now, this is just like Frank's there, and now he's saying that like, I'll babysit or some shit, right? And I remember thinking it was weird. Like, that's probably why it stuck in my head, because I just thought this was weird, right? And so now it's just like, I don't even think my little brother's there. My mom's not there. So we're upstairs, which I don't know why you'd like the center of the house was like their room. My mom and Frank's bedroom was like where everybody was. There was like the shower worked there and the TV was there. It was just a weird thing. So anyway, in the bedroom with Frank. Now, little side. Oh yeah, I should probably tell the story before I go side noting. Yeah, let's just go through the story. So now I'm babysitting. The lady comes, she drops her kids off, two little girls, one smaller than the other. Small kids, I can't remember their ages. Maybe the one was maybe they both walked. Anyway. So now the lady leaves and we're basically just sitting around in the fucking bedroom, you know, like probably like, I don't know, playing with toys or some shit. I don't remember. And so Frank tells me, he says, take the girls downstairs to go change their diapers. And I'm like, and I think I was like, can I just do it here? No, just go downstairs, something to this effect, right? So I'm down there changing the diapers and the fucking mother runs in. And a panic. Like, oh my babies. It was fucking bizarre. Like, where did she come from? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is just really weird. And she comes in and she's like this, and I don't know what the fuck's going on, right? As an adult, I know what's going on. And what really made me drill down and try to figure this out was because my mom used to say this shit to me, like, Frank's scared of you. What? Why would this motherfucker be scared of me? I mean, I literally, like, after he left, and it had been a few years, Like, and my little brother came to live with me. I like went out to the college where he worked, went in and had a whole conversation with him, very nice and all this. Like, where does this shit, like, he's scared of me come from? Like, that's what really made me start trying to figure out, what did you do, motherfucker? What is it you did that you're so scared of me? Because I talked to you. We had a fucking conversation. Like, what the fuck is that coming from? Is it my mom making up bullshit lies? Or did you do something, right? And it's like, that's what he did. He tried to set me up like some fucking pedophile. And it's like, well, what the fuck did you do this? What did I do? I didn't do anything, right? So him and his fucking armchair fucking psychologist, debate coach, college teacher, wants to think he's a fucking psychologist, basically. My mother obviously told him that she was molested by my grandfather. Okay, so my grandfather molests my mother, and then he's gonna fucking say that that's how I'm gonna turn out because I witnessed a shooting? Like, where the fuck? Fuck you. Yeah, totally. You're a punk, Frank. You are a fucking, and you're dumb. You're literally a fucking dumb piece of shit, right? And I know Frank's a piece of shit because his brother used to pick on me. And what kind of fucking people, adults, pick on kids? I've never picked on a kid in my life. By any stretch of, like, oh, maybe when I was a little kid, whatever, little kid shit. But as a fucking adult, And I would fucking probably physically harm another adult if I witnessed them picking on a child in front of me. Okay? That's the type of person I am. Okay? But Frank's brother was the type of adult piece of shit that would pick on kids. Okay? So Frank and his brother, pieces of shit, basically. Right? And it's like, wow. So this fucking guy tags me as a fucking pedophile and then creates the fucking evidence he needs to have this like, oh, I'm right. And oh, your kid's not smart. Like, so my mom was telling him I'm smart, and he's probably, oh, if he's so smart, put him in this school. And then that school asked me literally not to come back. Oh, he must not be smart then. But I was smart. I was really fucking smart. I am really fucking smart. 90 percentile smart. 2 IQ tests said the same thing over 10 years apart. Administered by psychologists in both cases. Okay? So I am fucking smart. And his decision to fucking go to this bullshit school fucked my goddamn ability to learn up because the whole story, I've already told this whole story, but that's all my fucking learning problems were because I was fucking off fucking in this school learning nothing, walking, hours by myself in the school. Like, my days were, for a kid, to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, make his own fucking lunch. I remember sleeping in the bathtub. That's a memory I have of a lot. Like, for a whole year of my life, I get out of bed because my mother would wake me up. I go into the bathtub and go back to sleep. And the weirdest thing I remember about that was I'd be Indian style in the bathtub. And somehow, only the hot water would stay in front, and it would just be cold water behind me. Yeah. So anyway, get up, get on TriMet, ride out to the fucking, this is what my second grade ended up like, right? Riding TriMet, being permanently kicked off the shuttle bus for forgetting books too often. So now I'm riding TriMet, walking over a mile to school. I get to school, then I was in charge of the yarn department. And I unwrapped all this yarn and I put it out really nice. And then the next day, somebody had literally come back and tangled all the fucking yarn. And then they said, well, you were in charge of the yarn department. So I am like almost positive it was this one teacher. And I could say every name in the book for that woman. And not one of them was, she's smart. Okay? So to mess with me, a child, now all my day was unknotting yarn. This is with the fucking 100, this is with an IQ in the 90 percentile. I need to spend hours all day long at school, yarn balls, all day. Oh, you can take a break for lunch. Okay, good, I'll eat my Halloween candy lunch. Get in trouble for that, because there's no food in the refrigerator. Okay, then more ball rock all day. And then when the school day's over, okay, now walk over a mile, back down to the fucking TriMet, get on the TriMet, go home, and just be alone until whatever time my mom showed up, which could be, I don't know, late. I remember trying to break into my house a lot. The key, I lost it or whatever. Like just being home, alone, locked outside. This is my fucking childhood, okay? So, and now I'm the guy who has invented the cure for wildfires and completely, now it's not all my work, I've expanded on other people's work, but my work in the resource-based economy, I have literally defined a way to cure this planet, every single problem it has, right? Okay, great, so I got fucking painted as this weird fucked up person by this fucking asshole when I was a little kid. And it definitely fucking made my life a whole lot harder than it needed to be, right? And what I take away from this whole story is fuck this Frank guy and fuck my grandfather. Like, how the fuck did that guy get to live a pretty nice life being a fucking pedophile molester? Like, why the fuck did I even know that motherfucker? You know what I'm saying? Like, that fucker should have been in jail. He definitely should have been. And then, like, my mom's oldest brother was a fucking retard. An actual retard. Like, died super. So then I'm like, what did grandpa do to grandma to make that retard? Right? Like, how bad was my grandfather, really? I think he was maybe really fucking bad, right? Racist, most definitely a racist. Conservative, oh yeah, conservative. For sure conservative, so yeah, anyway. But then I even go deeper. And there's like the whole original Bush family from Germany that broke apart and became two different families in some sort of big argument, which the Bushes stayed the Bushes, and then the other ones became Bush-Czech, okay? And the Bush-Czech, they came to the side. Now, I have to wonder what that argument was about. What was the Bush-Czech part of the family doing to the Bushes? Was the Bushes bad? Was it the Bush-Czechs bad? I don't know. But at this point in my life, I don't have any pride in my last name whatsoever, zero pride in my last name. I was going to create a new last name, but until I figured all this out, now I wouldn't want to take that last name either. Because, that's messed up stuff, right? So yeah, this is just a really messed up story about a guy with a very average IQ, Frank Harlow, pretty much just making it really, now it was never his responsibility to raise me, right? But I'm not bitching about that. I'm bitching about the fact that you tried to fucking set me up for some shit that you had in your own brain that you created, and then there was no evidence for it, so then you made up this whole situation. That's why you're a piece of shit, right? And really, I wish I never would have been moved over to their house, because him and me, like, that's why he left. He left because of me. So that ruined my little brother's whole thing, right? Which my little brother had it really effing good with that guy. So I wish my mother never would have accepted me back from my father, because then my little brother would have had a much better, I mean, like, my little brother got like private schools, international travel, and then just completely went into the military and became a fucking mind slave in like 5 seconds. Like, he did nothing with the fucking with the good he got. He did nothing at all with it, right? And I got just shit, and I turned it into not the best looking diamond, but I mean, pretty damn good. My property that I bought 3 years ago has gone up 5 times. Without considering anything I've done. So just my property compared with all the other properties that have the home permit possibility, like, all those properties have gone up 5 times. My property with the $1 million view and the farm I'm putting in will probably be worth over $1 million, okay? And hopefully someday somebody will finally hear me, and we can end wildfires, okay? So this is what I'm focused on. I'm focused on making this world a better place for everybody, right? I'm not a capital-pathic freaking like Frank capital, like he made a lot of money, he did this, who cares? Making money is no big deal. If you have an average IQ and you didn't have a super messed up childhood, you can make enough money to have a nice life. That doesn't mean you're a genius or should be taken seriously about anything other than, the most basic, taken seriously. Like, you should be considered to be some genius. How about that? Like, oh, wow, that guy's a college professor. He must be brilliant, So anyway, and that's really what it boils down to, is like, my mom going, this guy's scared of you, made me figure this shit out. I already had all the memories and all the information in my head, but putting it all together, right? And what an ugly, 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 ugly fucking picture did I discover. I mean, it is like, I'm just disgusted with my grandfather. I wonder what my grandmother knew. I mean, these are the types of things that just make me just disgusted, right? Well, so this is another autobiography story, awful story. If you've made it through the video this long, great. You're probably an FBI agent. Yeah. And yeah, fuck the FBI. I know you motherfuckers have tried to entrap me on so many occasions. I don't know if you're working with the dipshits in Portland, or if that's, but I mean, a fucking just retarded ass shit. And I have to believe, because like, Frank had some fucking friends, like piece of shit friend, or at least one friend, that was a guy that worked in the child jail. And that, being an empath, I feel, and that guy, what I was feeling from that guy when I was a kid was evil. Evil, sick, twisted, right? And this was Frank's friend. And don't forget, Frank's brother picked on me as a child. So how good can you possibly be as a person if you try to set up a child for being a pedophile, if your brother picks on people, and you just abandoned this kid that you basically raised, right? So Frank Harlow, trash human. Peace. Like, subscribe, have a wonderful day, unless you're Frank. And if you're Frank, you don't have to worry about me beating your ass, you fucking old piece of shit. But you just go kick your own ass, fucking punk.